Noel's breakthrough, how one man turned impossible into reality. Noel was just a regular guy from a small town in Indiana. By day, he fixed cars at the local garage. By night, he worked alone in a cluttered workshop filled with wires, scraps, and a stubborn dream to build a device that could turn everyday household waste into clean, affordable energy. He wasn't some genius scientist, just a hardworking man with a vision to help people save money and protect the planet. But every time Noel talked about his idea, he was met with skepticism and doubt. That's crazy. You don't have the background or money for that? It'll never work, forget it. Even his best friends began avoiding the conversation. His own family started hinting it was time to grow up and get a stable job. The weight of doubt pressed heavy on Noel's shoulders. Some nights, after a long day at the garage, he'd stare at his half-finished prototype and wonder if he was chasing a fool's dream. The pressure wasn't just from words. Bills piled up. The bank kept calling about missed payments. The stress broke something in his home life. His wife, worn down by worries about money and an uncertain future, finally left, taking their young daughter with her. That kind of loss could have ended it for most men. But Noel, sitting alone in that quiet workshop, wiped his tears and asked himself a simple, powerful question. What exactly am I trying to solve? He realized the problem wasn't just building a new machine. It was that people were afraid of the cost of clean energy. That fear was the real roadblock. So Noel decided to break the problem down like he'd fix any engine, piece by piece. What really makes clean energy so expensive? Is it the materials, the way it's made, the complicated systems behind it? Could he design it differently, cheaper and simpler? He started drawing new plans, hunting junkyards for parts, teaching himself skills from online videos. Step by step, piece by piece, he built his dream. But the journey was brutal. His first prototype barely worked. Motors overheated, wires sparked, and several times small fires broke out in his workshop, once burning through a stack of carefully collected parts. One night, a freak accident caused a minor electric shock that left him shaken and scared. At one point, a critical part snapped just before a big test. The homemade battery pack overheated and short-circuited, causing the whole prototype to explode with a loud boom. The shock sent shards of metal and sparks flying across the workshop, destroying months of painstaking work in an instant. He didn't have the cash to replace the damaged parts or rebuild the fragile electronics from scratch. To make matters worse, his old pickup truck broke down on the way to the junkyard, leaving him stranded and frustrated. Then, his phone died. No way to call the supplier who promised discounted parts. Desperate, he tried using his laptop to redesign the broken components, but it crashed unexpectedly, wiping out days of intricate work and forcing him to start over. Noel started sleeping on the cold concrete floor of his garage, curled up beside wires and blueprints, surrounded by burnt tools and broken hopes. But he couldn't sleep. Not when everything he had left was tied to this one machine. He spent nights patching circuits under a flickering lamp, rewiring motors with bleeding fingers, eating cold sandwiches from a cooler, and washing up with bottled water. His garage had become his home, his lab, and his last shot. And he wasn't going to leave until it worked. He lost sleep, money, and a good chunk of hope. The voices in his head grew louder, harsher. Why keep going? Maybe they were right. Maybe it's time to quit. Friends stopped calling, bills stacked higher, credit cards maxed out. The loneliness was crushing. His workshop, once full of promise, felt like a prison of failure. He was this close to giving up. But then, just when the darkness felt deepest, an investor finally showed interest. It wasn't a gift. The investor demanded 80% of any profits. It wasn't ideal, but Noel said yes. He didn't want money. He wanted to see his idea come to life. 2 years later, with hands still shaking, Noel showed his working model to a family living off the grid. The device powered their home through the night, cleaner, cheaper, and real. Word spread slowly. Skeptics turned curious. The impossible was no longer just talk, it was happening. What Noel's story teaches us. Noel's story isn't just about machines. It's about asking tough questions. What am I really trying to fix? Why does this feel impossible? Can I break it down and do it differently? More than that, it's about grit, about standing up when everything tells you to sit down. Because the biggest breakthroughs don't come from easy roads. They come from people who keep going, learn from their mistakes, and refuse to give up. So if you're doubting your own dream, remember Noel, the mechanic with a stubborn heart, a broken home, and a garage full of failures, who showed the world that impossible is just a question waiting for the right answer. First principles thinking.